Hi, everyone. Welcome. If you're joining us live for the Educating All Learners, also known as EALA's Tech Tool of the Month featuring Clever. If you are watching live, feel free to put any questions that you have into the chat as we continue on with our presentation. Before we dive into today's tech tool, I'm going to share a little information about EALA in case you are stumbling across this video and you have not heard of the Educating All Learners Alliance yet. The Educating All Learners Alliance is an uncommon coalition of now actually over 155 nonprofit organizations. We are constantly expanding our network every day. We have a resource library, accessible tech tool library, different webinars, podcasts, case studies, and several different initiatives that we host, all to support students with learning disabilities in all capacities. So whether that is to the audience of caregivers, policymakers, educators, practitioners, district decision makers. We have several different resources to appeal to all folks. So today I would like to introduce our presenters for our Tech Tool of the Month. We have Jamie Raffel, the head of product and design at Clever. And we also have Maddie Bustamante, software engineer at Clever. Welcome, and thank you both so much for being here.
Thank you.
So as I mentioned, this is a little snippet of what our tech tool library would look like. We do obviously have Clever in our tech tool library, which is why they are here with us today to talk a little bit more about the different accessible capabilities of the tool. So I will now pass it over to Jamie to go into a little bit more detail about that.
Thank you, Jackie, and just very excited to be here today and talk about some of the work we're doing at Clever. So today, Maddie and I are going to talk about Clever and some of our critical accessibility features. This is just a short piece of some of the work that we put in to make sure that education is accessible to all learners. But first, I want to just talk about Clever. Clever is a platform that powers secure digital learning for over 100,000 schools worldwide. And our mission is to connect every student to a world of learning. Accessibility then becomes key to making sure that that can happen, because if the world of learning is not accessible to every student, then we're not doing our job and we're not fulfilling our mission. So we're going to talk a little bit today about how we make that happen. First, I want to talk about what the most visible part of Clever is, and a lot of what we're going to talk about today happens with the Clever portal. Students use so many different learning applications as they go through their weeks and months, students of all ages, that it's important that there's a way of accessing all of that learning that is secure, that is easy to find, is easy to use for both teachers and students of all ages. And the Clever portal plays that role in more than half the classrooms in the US. Because it plays this critical role, that means we treat every feature in the portal as an accessibility feature. We want to make sure that everything that a teacher or a student does works for students of all abilities, students who are using assistive devices, and so on and so forth. And we're going to dive into a little bit of some of how that happens today. But before we do that, I want to introduce Maddie, who will talk a little bit about the work that we do behind the scenes to make sure that that's possible.
Thanks, Jamie. I'm Maddie. I'm a software engineer at Clever, as mentioned before. Let's talk about how we prioritize accessibility at Clever. We have three main ways that we build accessibility into all Clever products and experiences. First is design, planning, and testing. Software engineers and product designers build accessibility into new features through the tech spec process, which includes addressing and discussing how our features will interact with different accessibility tools. Engineers test features with the AxDev tools utility to ensure AA WCAG certification. Teams test new features with several accessibility tools like the screen reader, keyboard navigator, and a variety of widths and zooms before releasing anything to users. The second way we make sure accessibility is in all of our Clever products is with workshops and education. We have learning and development opportunities for engineers and product designers in order to keep up with any WCAG updates. The third way we ensure accessibility at Clever is by the yearly accessibility audit that's done by an external auditor called DQ. Our goal is to have AA WCAG certification for the student, teacher, and guardian experience. This audit gives us full coverage for any accessibility bugs that may have escaped our manual and automated testing. So let's move into our demos.
Yeah. And to give context, I want to dive deep into one specific feature that Clever has that is something we're really well known for. It's a unique piece of what we do, and it is extremely important for accessibility, and that's Clever Badges. The origin of Clever Badges is just the understanding that when we log into software, we often have to deal with things like usernames and passwords, and usernames and passwords can be incredibly difficult and maybe even insurmountable for younger students who aren't typing or reading yet. But also for students who have either cognitive or motor disabilities that may make it difficult for them to deal with usernames, passwords, and memorizing, and so on and so forth. We knew from the beginning that Clever Badges, which is a QR code that any student can use in the classroom to log in to their device and to access all of their learning systems, would be a fun, accessible, and honestly just really fast way to get into their software. And so we're going to start today with a demo of Clever Badges, and then we're going to talk about one more feature that we've built into the Clever portal that we think goes a step further to help to give teachers the power to help students of all abilities into their learning applications. So I'm going to stop sharing, and Maddie can take over with a demo.
Okay. So usually students will log into their Chromebook, iPad, whatever tool they're using, and easily get to the Clever login through whatever system they've set up through their school. Once you get to the Clever login page, students can select to use the Clever badge to log in. And the Clever badge, as mentioned before, is a QR code, and it's usually on the back of a student's ID card, or it's printed out by their teacher. But I just have one on my phone to use as an example. So I just scan it here, and I'm automatically logged into my Clever portal. From here, I can access all of my resources very easily. I can message anyone, teachers and I think just teachers from the student experience. This here that I'm showing now is the teacher experience of the Clever portal. And I can automatically open up a resource for all of my students without my students needing to do anything extra. So let's open Khan Academy for this student, Kristen Stark. I'm going to hide that. And if we go back to the student experience, we will be automatically redirected to Khan Academy. There we go. Great. So the student experience is pretty seamless with just logging in with a badge, and then they basically don't have to do anything to access their accounts.
Great. Thank you. And I want to just close out. These are just two of the features that Clever's working on and builds and supports every day that allow millions of students to access their learning applications, and that includes students with all abilities. And I want to talk about the future work. We're not done. There's more to come. And one thing that I really want to highlight that Clever is emphasizing at the moment is that the security situation in schools is getting tougher and tougher. And as a result, schools are putting in more security measures, including things like multi-factor authentication in front of their teachers, their adults, but also sometimes their learners and the students. And there can be a trade-off between usability and accessibility and security. And one thing that Clever is intending to do as we go forward is, as we figure out these new security features that are going to be important to keep students safe, we want to make sure that those security features work for kids of all abilities, students with using assistive devices, and just are easy and fun in the classroom, so they're not getting in the way of learning. And so that's something that we'll be working on over the course of the next few years, I'm sure, and hopefully we'll be back to talk to you all about some of those. Well, thank you all. This was really fun. And if you want to stay up to date with what Clever is working on in the area of accessibility, in the area of security, or anything else, please join us at clever.com. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jamie and Maddie, for being here today. It was really cool to learn a little bit more about the back end side of Clever, what you're currently working on, what you will be working on. That's always good to know that, you're constantly making advancements and improvements. And that's especially in the space of tech. We know it changes so rapidly. So it's great to be on top of that. If you wouldn't mind going to the next slide. Thank you so much. So to learn more about accessibility, On the EALA side of things, you can go over to educatingalllearners.org/ed-tech/ or to take our EdTech Accessibility Basics course for EdTech solution providers, you can go to educatingallaccessibility.org, which is a free course for folks in the EdTech solution space. Next slide. And lastly, to stay in touch with EALA, you can go ahead and subscribe if you haven't already to our newsletter at educatingalllearners.org. We send out a biweekly newsletter every 2 weeks. You can keep up with us on socials at educatingall_org. If you have any resources for us, any free and open access resources, you can email them to resources@educatingalllearners.org, or any accessible tech tools. Also, we would love to hear from you. If you are in the nonprofit space, feel free to send us an email to aurora@innovateedu.org to join the Alliance. Thank you so much again to Jamie and Clever from Thank you so much again to Jamie and Maddie from Clever for joining us. It's always exciting to hear about new advancements in the field. And for those of you watching, thank you for being here with us today. Hope you have a good one.